Elena Vasquez looked out the window of her transport ship as it approached Nexus Prime. The planet was massive, 3 times larger than Earth, covered in gleaming cities that stretched across entire continents. Towers reached up into the clouds, connected by bridges that sparkled like silver threads. Ships of every shape and size moved through the sky like schools of fish. This was the center of galactic power, the home of the Galaxy Council. Elena smoothed her dark blue diplomatic uniform and checked her briefcase one more time. Inside were Earth's proposals for trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and protection treaties. She had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. Humanity's first official contact with the galaxy's government. The transport docked at a station that could have held 1,000 Earth cities. Elena walked through corridors filled with aliens of every description. Some walked on 4 legs. Others floated in bubbles of gas. A few looked almost human, but with purple skin or extra arms. They all stared at her as she passed. Elena had studied the major species before coming here. The Zephyrians ruled the council. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They had controlled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their king, Thalmor, was said to be 3,000 years old. 2 Zephyrian guards escorted Elena to the council chambers. The room was enormous, with seats for representatives from 847 different species. Most of the seats were empty today. Only the important species had bothered to attend humanity's first diplomatic meeting. King Thalmor sat on a throne made of crystal at the center of the chamber. He was even taller than Elena had expected, nearly 8 feet, with skin like polished stone. His black eyes showed no emotion as he watched her approach. "Ambassador Vasquez of Earth," announced a council clerk. "Here to present humanity's petition for recognition and trade rights." Elena walked to the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. She could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her. Some looked curious. Others seemed bored. A few appeared hostile. She opened her briefcase and pulled out her prepared speech. Her voice was steady as she began to speak. "Honored members of the Galaxy Council, I come before you today, representing the people of Earth. We are a young species, but we are eager to join the galactic community. We offer our friendship and cooperation to all peaceful species." Some of the aliens whispered to each other. Elena continued, "Earth has much to offer the galaxy. Our scientists have developed new medical techniques that could help many species. Our artists create beauty that speaks to universal emotions. Our engineers have solved problems in ways that might benefit everyone." King Thalmor raised one thin hand. The chamber fell silent. "Human," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You speak of what Earth can offer. But what can Earth give that we do not already have? We have ruled this galaxy since before your species learned to make fire." Elena felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her voice calm. "Your Majesty, every species brings something unique to the galaxy. Humans have a different perspective on problems. We think in ways that might surprise you." The king's laugh was like breaking glass. "Surprise us? Child, we have seen 1,000 species rise and fall. You are no different from any other primitive world begging for our protection." Elena opened her briefcase again and pulled out a datapad. "If I may, Your Majesty, I have prepared detailed proposals for mutual benefit agreements." "Earth could provide." "Enough," the king interrupted. "We have already decided your fate. Earth will accept our standard protection treaty. You will provide us with 30% of your planet's resources each year. In return, we will protect you from hostile species." The chamber was completely quiet now. Elena felt the weight of that silence. This was not what Earth had sent her here for. "Your Majesty, with respect, that is not a partnership. That is conquest by another name. Humanity cannot accept those terms." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several aliens looked shocked that a human would dare refuse the king's offer. King Thalmor's black eyes grew cold. "Cannot accept? Human, do you understand where you are? You stand before the rulers of 847 worlds. Your single planet means nothing to us." Elena stood straighter. Earth means everything to us, Your Majesty. We will not trade our freedom for your protection. We ask only for fair treatment and the right to govern ourselves. The king rose from his throne. When he stood at full height, he towered over everyone in the chamber. Fair treatment? You dare demand fairness? You are nothing but animals who learned to build ships. Your arrogance insults this council. Elena felt fear creeping up her spine, but she did not back down. Human dignity is not arrogance. Your Majesty. Every sentient species deserves respect. The king's voice became deadly quiet. Respect must be earned. And you, human, have shown only disrespect to this council and to me personally. Guards, arrest this creature. 4 Zephyrian guards moved toward Elena. She did not resist as they grabbed her arms. Your Majesty, I am a diplomatic representative. I have immunity under galactic law. You have nothing, the king said. Your species refused our generous offer. You chose the path of rebellion. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the council's authority. The guards dragged Elena from the chamber as she called out, "This is murder. The galaxy will know what you have done here." 3 hours later, Elena stood before a crowd of thousands in Nexus Prime's central plaza. The execution platform was raised high so everyone could see. Cameras broadcast the event to every world in the galaxy. King Thalmor stood beside the platform, addressing the crowd. Let all species see what happens to those who reject the council's wisdom. This human chose death over obedience. Elena's hands were bound behind her back. The energy weapon pointed at her chest would kill her instantly. She looked up at the cameras and spoke her final words clearly. My name is Elena Vasquez. I represented Earth in peace and friendship. This king chose murder over justice. Tell my people what happened here. Tell them that humanity must never bow to tyranny. She paused, looking directly at King Thalmor. You have no idea what you have just awakened. The energy beam struck her chest. Elena Vasquez died standing straight, her eyes defiant until the end. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species watched in silence as smoke rose from the execution platform. In the king's throne room, advisors celebrated another successful demonstration of council power. None of them noticed the small probe that had been watching from high orbit. It had recorded everything. Already, the probe was sending a message toward a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. The message was simple. Elena is dead. They killed her for refusing to surrender Earth. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen received the message and closed her eyes. Elena had been her friend. Her death would not be meaningless. Chen walked to her command center and began issuing orders. Humanity's true military forces had been hidden for exactly this moment. The Galaxy Council would learn that humans were not the primitive species they appeared to be. The hunt for King Thalmor was about to begin. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the recorded execution on the main screen. Elena's final words echoed in the silent room. Around her, dozens of officers waited for orders. Their faces showed the same cold anger that Chen felt burning in her chest. Replay the message, Chen ordered quietly. The communication officer pressed a button. Elena's voice filled the room again. You have no idea what you have just awakened. Chen smiled grimly. Elena had known this might happen. They had discussed the possibility many times during mission planning. If the Galaxy Council proved to be hostile, humanity would be ready. Send activation codes to all stealth ships, Chen commanded. Operation Prometheus begins now. The Galaxy Council thought humans were primitive. They had seen Earth's public ships, slow, clumsy vessels that could barely reach nearby star systems. They had no idea about humanity's real fleet. For 50 years, human engineers had been building ships in secret. Deep in asteroid fields, hidden in the shadows of gas giants, disguised as mining stations, the Council's scouts had never found them because they were never meant to be found. Captain Rodriguez turned from his console. Admiral, all stealth ships report ready. We have 47 vessels positioned throughout Council space. Chen nodded. What about the Wraith fleet? 23 ships, all equipped with quantum drive systems. They can reach any target in the galaxy within 72 hours. The Council expected any human response to take months. The distance between Earth and Nexus Prime was enormous by their technology standards. Their fastest ships would need half a year to make the journey. Human quantum drives could cover the same distance in 3 days. Begin intelligence gathering, Chen ordered. I want to know where King Thalmor is, where he goes, who he talks to, and what he eats for breakfast. Map every Council military installation. Find their weaknesses. The officers began working at their stations. Data streams flowed across dozens of screens. Chen walked to her private office and activated a secure channel. President Martinez appeared on her screen, his face grave. Sarah, I've been watching the execution footage. The whole planet is angry. Good, Chen replied. Anger is useful. Are you giving me full authorization? Whatever you need. The Security Council voted unanimously. Elena died as Earth's representative. This is an act of war against all humanity. Chen leaned back in her chair. Mr. President, when this is over, the galaxy will remember Elena Vasquez. But they'll remember her as the diplomat, whose death ended the Galaxy Council's reign of terror. 6 hours after Elena's execution, the first reports reached the Council. A Zephyrian military base on the edge of their territory had gone silent. No explosion. No attack. No enemy ships detected. The base simply stopped responding to communications. 3 hours later, another base went quiet. Then another. King Thalmor received the reports in his throne room. His military advisors stood around him, looking confused and worried. How many bases have we lost contact with? The king asked. 17, Your Majesty, reported General Koss. But our sensors show no enemy activity in any of those regions. No ships, no weapons fire, nothing. Could it be equipment failure? On 17 different bases, all at the same time? Unlikely, Your Majesty. The king's black eyes narrowed. Then we are under attack. But by whom? General Koss hesitated. The only recent change has been the human execution, Your Majesty. But their species lacks the technology for such widespread operations. Send scout ships to investigate, the king ordered. I want answers. The scout ships found the bases intact but empty. No damage to the buildings, no signs of battle. The personnel were simply gone. Security cameras showed nothing unusual until they suddenly went dark. But in each location, the scouts found the same thing. A small metal device attached to the main communication array. When they tried to examine the devices, they exploded harmlessly, leaving behind only a message burned into the metal. Justice for Elena Vasquez. On Luna Station, Chen watched the intelligence reports flowing in. Her ships were performing perfectly. The stealth technology made them invisible to Council sensors. The quantum weapons could disable electronics without causing explosions. The teleportation devices could remove entire base crews for interrogation elsewhere. Status report, Chen called out. 41 Council installations neutralized, reported Captain Rodriguez. 0 casualties on our side. The enemy still hasn't detected any of our ships. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Phase 2. Begin targeting command structures. I want their generals to start feeling scared. The attacks continued for 3 days. Council military commanders began disappearing from their homes, their offices, their private ships. They would vanish without a trace, only to reappear hours later on their own doorsteps, unconscious and with no memory of what had happened. Each awakened commander found a message tattooed on their arm in their own language. Elena Vasquez sends her regards. Panic spread through the Council's leadership. How could an enemy strike anywhere in the galaxy without being seen? How could they penetrate the most secure locations without setting off alarms? King Thalmor called an emergency meeting of his top advisors. The throne room was filled with frightened officials from a dozen species. This is impossible, declared Admiral Vex of the Kandarian Navy. No species has this technology. The humans barely have space travel. Perhaps we underestimated them, suggested Minister Dahl of the Trade Guild. The king's voice was cold with rage. They are animals with stolen technology. Nothing more. Then how do we fight them? Asked General Koss. Our fleets can't fight an enemy they can't see. Chen smiled as she listened to the intercepted communications. The council's leaders were beginning to understand their situation. Time for the next phase. She opened a channel to all council worlds simultaneously. Every screen, every communication device, every public display across 847 planets showed the same image. Elena Vasquez, standing before the Galaxy Council, speaking of friendship and cooperation. Then the image switched to her execution. Finally, Chen's own face appeared on every screen in the galaxy. She wore the uniform of the Terran Defense Force, her admiral's insignia clearly visible. People of the galaxy, Chen began, her voice calm and clear. 3 days ago, your leaders murdered Earth's ambassador for the crime of refusing to surrender humanity's freedom. Elena Vasquez came to you in peace. She offered friendship and cooperation between equals. The image showed Elena's final moments again, her defiant last words. Your King Thalmor chose murder over diplomacy. He believes that might makes right, that the strong can do whatever they wish to the weak. Chen's voice hardened. He was wrong. Pictures flashed across the screens showing the disabled council bases, the missing commanders, the messages left behind. Humanity did not start this war. But we will finish it. Every species in this galaxy deserves the freedom that Elena died trying to secure. King Thalmor has 3 days to surrender himself for trial. If he does not, we will come for him. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings stared at dark screens, processing what they had just witnessed. On Nexus Prime, King Thalmor smashed his crystal throne with his bare hands. "Find me those humans," he screamed. "Find them and destroy them all." But his generals could only stand in silence. How do you fight an enemy that can strike anywhere and be nowhere? In the depths of space, human ships prepared for the final hunt. Elena's death would not go unanswered. King Thalmor paced in his private chambers, his tall frame casting long shadows on the walls. 3 days had passed since the human admiral's ultimatum. 3 days of humiliation as his forces proved powerless against an invisible enemy. His personal guards stood at attention around the room. These were his most trusted warriors, Zephyrian elites who had served his family for centuries. If humans wanted him, they would have to go through them first. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. The king activated his communication device, hoping for good news from his military commanders. Instead, Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. "Your 3 days are up," she said simply. "You chose to hide instead of facing justice. Now we come for you." The transmission cut off. The king stared at the dark screen, his black eyes filled with rage and growing fear. "Double the guards," he ordered. "No one enters this palace without my permission. And find me those human ships." But across the galaxy, human forces had already begun their assault on the Council's power structure. Captain Lisa Park commanded the stealth ship Phantom as it approached the Zephyrian Military Academy on Keth Moran. The planet was heavily defended, with orbital platforms and patrol fleets protecting the facility where the Council's future officers trained. The Phantom slipped past every sensor, invisible and silent. Park's team teleported directly into the Academy's main classroom, where 300 young Zephyrian cadets were studying military tactics. The humans appeared like ghosts, wearing black combat suits and carrying weapons the aliens had never seen. But they did not fire. Instead, Park stepped forward and removed her helmet. "Cadets of the Zephyrian Academy," she announced in perfect Zephyrian language. "Your king murdered an innocent diplomat. We are here to show you what real military tactics look like." The cadets watched in shock as Park's team demonstrated human combat techniques. They moved like dancers, using speed and precision instead of brute force. Their weapons could stun instead of kill, disable instead of destroy. "Your leaders teach you that might makes right," Park continued. "But humans believe that right makes might. Elena Vasquez had no weapons, but she was braver than your king." The demonstration lasted exactly 1 hour. Then the humans vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving behind only a recording of Elena's speech to the council and her final words of defiance. Similar raids happened across the galaxy. Human teams struck at military academies, government buildings, and propaganda centers. They never killed anyone, but they left their message everywhere. Justice for Elena Vasquez. On the trade world of Nexus Minor, humans infiltrated the largest commercial center in the galaxy. They hacked every advertising screen simultaneously, replacing product advertisements with footage of Elena's execution. The merchant princes who controlled galactic commerce watched in horror as their customers saw the truth about council justice. Many species had never witnessed the execution because their governments had blocked the transmission. Now they all saw Elena die for refusing to surrender her people's freedom. Commander James Walsh led a team of human infiltrators into the Council's main intelligence facility on Cerebos Prime. The building was supposed to be impenetrable, protected by the best security technology in the galaxy. The humans walked through the defenses like they did not exist. Quantum phase technology allowed them to pass through solid walls. Neural disruptors disabled guards without harming them. Computer viruses turned the facility's own systems against itself. Walsh's team accessed the Council's deepest secrets. They found records of hundreds of species forced into slavery. They discovered plans to wipe out entire worlds for refusing Council rule. They uncovered evidence of corruption, murder, and genocide spanning thousands of years. All of this information was immediately broadcast to every world in the galaxy. People of the Council, Walsh announced from the facility's main communication center. Your leaders have been lying to you. They are not protectors. They are predators. Elena Vasquez died because she refused to let them feed on humanity. The revelations caused riots on dozens of worlds. Species that had served the Council faithfully for centuries learned that their children had been sold as slaves, their resources stolen, their cultures destroyed. King Thalmor watched the chaos spreading across his empire from his throne room. Reports flooded in from every sector. Rebellions on 17 worlds. His governors murdered by their own people. Military units refusing orders. Your Majesty, General Koss entered the chamber, his face pale with exhaustion. We have lost control of the outer territories. The humans are turning our own people against us. How many ships can we rally to defend Nexus Prime? The king demanded. Perhaps 2,000, Your Majesty. But our crews are demoralized. Many believe the humans are right about our methods. The king's laugh was bitter. Right? We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We brought order to chaos. And what order was that, Your Majesty? Asked a new voice. Everyone in the throne room turned toward the sound. Admiral Chen stood in the doorway, flanked by 6 human soldiers. They had appeared without triggering any alarms, passing through security like it did not exist. The king's guards raised their weapons, but Chen held up one hand. I did not come here to fight your guards. I came to offer you the same choice you gave Elena Vasquez. What choice? The king snarled. Surrender and face trial, or die where you stand. General Koss stepped forward. You are outnumbered, human. Surrender now and we might let you live. Chen smiled coldly. General, look around you. Koss turned and gasped. The throne room was filled with human soldiers. They had materialized silently around the walls, their weapons trained on every council guard. How many were there? 50? 100? They had appeared like magic. Your choice, Your Majesty, Chen said calmly. Justice or death. King Thalmor drew himself up to his full height. I am the rightful ruler of this galaxy. I will not submit to the judgment of animals. Then you have chosen death. Chen nodded to her soldiers. Wait. General Koss threw down his weapon. I surrender. The king does not speak for all of us. Around the room, other council officers began dropping their weapons. They had seen enough human demonstrations to know resistance was useless. But the king himself grabbed a guard's plasma rifle and aimed it at Chen. If I die, you die with me. Human. Elena's recorded voice suddenly filled the throne room. This king chose murder over justice. Tell my people what happened here. Tell them that humanity must never bow to tyranny. The king's hands shook as he listened to the woman he had killed. She was nothing, he screamed. A primitive animal. She was a diplomat, Chen said quietly. She came here in peace, and you murdered her for sport. The king fired his weapon. The plasma bolt struck Chen directly in the chest. She did not fall. Her armor absorbed the energy harmlessly. Human technology was decades ahead of anything the council possessed. Elena Vasquez was worth more than your entire empire, Chen said, as she raised her own weapon. This is for her. The energy blast hit King Thalmor center mass. He fell backward, his body smoking. The ancient ruler of the galaxy died as he had lived, through violence, but his death was only the beginning. Chen turned to the surviving council members. General Koss, you will order all council forces to stand down. This war is over. Koss nodded quickly. What are your terms? Simple. The council is dissolved. Every species will govern itself. And Elena Vasquez will be remembered as the diplomat who died to free the galaxy from tyranny. Around the room, the human soldiers began to fade away. They had never been there at all. Holographic projections created by advanced technology. Only Chen and her original 6 soldiers were real. But the illusion had been perfect, and the message was clear. Humanity could strike anywhere, anytime, with overwhelming force. The galaxy belonged to the humans now, and they intended to rule it very differently than their predecessors. Broadcast this across all worlds, Chen ordered as medics checked the king's body. The tyrant is dead. The age of freedom has begun. In the depths of space, human ships received the signal and began emerging from stealth. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity's true fleet, hundreds of sleek vessels, each one more advanced than anything the council had ever built. Elena Vasquez had died for freedom. Now that freedom would spread to every corner of the galaxy. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. The news of King Thalmor's death spread across the galaxy within hours. On some worlds, beings celebrated in the streets. On others, council loyalists prepared for war. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, and Admiral Chen knew the next few days would determine whether Elena's sacrifice led to freedom or chaos. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, Chen stood before the surviving government officials. Representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned silence, still processing what had happened to their 10,000-year-old empire. General Koss, now the highest-ranking council military officer, cleared his throat nervously. Admiral, what are your intentions regarding council territory? Chen looked around the room at the frightened faces. These beings had spent their lives believing they were part of an unstoppable empire. Now they learned it could be toppled by a single species they had considered primitive. We do not want to rule you, Chen said clearly. Humans fight for freedom, not conquest. Every species in this galaxy deserves the right to govern itself. A Kandarian minister raised her webbed hand. But without the council, there will be chaos. Trade routes will collapse. Pirates will raid defenseless worlds. Wars will break out everywhere. Maybe, Chen agreed. But that chaos will be yours to solve. Elena Vasquez did not die so humans could become the new tyrants. She died so everyone could be free. Ambassador Vel of the Aquarian Union stood up. His blue skin showed the fear common to all aquatic species when faced with uncertainty. Admiral, some species cannot defend themselves. We need protection. Then ask for it, Chen replied. Make treaties with your neighbors. Form alliances. Build your own defenses. Do whatever free beings do when they face challenges. And if we refuse? General Koss asked quietly. Chen's expression hardened. If you try to rebuild the Council's empire, if you enslave other species, if you murder diplomats, then you will face the same justice as your king. Reports arrived throughout the day from across the galaxy. Most Council military units had surrendered immediately after news of the king's death. But several species remained loyal to the old system. The hegemony of Voss, a militaristic species that had served as the Council's primary enforcers, declared themselves the new galactic government. Their fleets were already moving toward Earth. intending to destroy humanity before the rebellion could spread further. Chen received this news in her temporary command center on Nexus Prime. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his console with concern. "Admiral, the Voss are bringing 12 battle fleets toward our territory. That's over 4,000 ships. They'll reach Earth in 6 days." Chen studied the tactical display. The Voss had always been the Council's strongest military force. Their ships were heavily armed, and their crews experienced in combat. A direct battle would cost many human lives. "Send a message to Fleet Admiral Torres on Luna Station," Chen ordered. "Tell her to implement the Shepherd Protocol." Rodriguez's eyes widened. The Shepherd Protocol was humanity's most secret defensive strategy, never tested in real combat. Across human space, hidden installations came online. Massive quantum generators that had been disguised as mining facilities began powering up. Artificial intelligence networks that had spent decades mapping galactic ship movements activated their targeting systems. When the Voss fleet reached the edge of human territory, they found Earth's defenses waiting for them. Admiral Vex of the Voss led the attack personally from his flagship Dominator. His species resembled armored insects, with natural exoskeletons that made them nearly indestructible in personal combat. They believed the same toughness applied to space warfare. "All ships, attack formation," Vex commanded. "Show these humans what happens to those who kill kings." The Voss fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons powered and shields raised. They expected to face the same primitive human ships the Council had observed for decades. Instead, space around them began to shimmer. Hundreds of human ships decloaked simultaneously, surrounding the Voss fleet completely. But these were not the clumsy vessels the aliens expected. These ships moved like living things, their hulls flowing and changing shape as they maneuvered. "Impossible," Admiral Vex whispered. There were no ships in this sector. The human fleet opened communication channels to every Voss ship at once. Elena's face appeared on their screens, speaking the words she had delivered to the Council just days before. "We offer our friendship and cooperation to all peaceful species," her recorded voice said. "Our engineers have solved problems in ways that might benefit everyone." Then Admiral Chen's voice replaced Elena's. "Admiral Vex, you have entered human territory with hostile intent. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Vex's mandibles clicked with rage. "We do not surrender to animals. All ships, fire at will." The Voss fleet unleashed their most powerful weapons. Energy beams and missile barrages filled space with deadly light. But their shots passed harmlessly through the human ships, as if they were shooting at ghosts. "Phase technology," Chen explained calmly over the open channel. "We can exist in normal space when we choose to, and phase out when we need to. Your weapons cannot touch us, but ours can touch you." The human ships opened fire. Their weapons were unlike anything the Voss had ever seen. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy vessels, they targeted specific systems. Engines shut down. Weapons went offline. Life support systems failed, forcing crews into emergency suits. Within minutes, the entire Voss fleet was disabled and helpless. "Admiral Vex," Chen's voice continued, "your ships are now powerless. Your crews are alive but unable to continue fighting." This is what Elena Vasquez meant when she said humans solve problems differently. Human boarding parties teleported onto the Voss ships, appearing directly on their bridges and in their engineering sections. They moved through the vessels like water, neutralizing any resistance without killing. Admiral Vex found himself facing a human soldier in his own command center. The woman was half his size, but her weapons and armor made size irrelevant. "Admiral," she said in perfect Voss language, "your war is over. King Thalmor is dead and your fleet is captured. Will you surrender? Or do we need to disable your life support as well?" Vex looked around his bridge. His crew was alive but restrained by human energy fields. His ship was intact but completely powerless. These humans could have killed everyone instead of merely defeating them. "I surrender," he said quietly. "What are your terms?" "Return to your homeworlds," the human soldier replied. "Tell your people what you saw here. Tell them that humans fight to defend, not to conquer. And remember Elena Vasquez. the diplomat who died for freedom. Similar encounters played out across the galaxy as other Council loyalist forces tested human resolve. Each time, the result was the same. Human technology proved overwhelmingly superior, but human goals remained focused on liberation rather than domination. The Crystalline Empire attempted to seize control of trade routes. Human ships appeared from nowhere and shut down their entire merchant fleet without firing a shot. The Hive Collective tried to expand into territories left vacant by the Council's collapse. Human forces surrounded their expansion fleets and politely escorted them home. The Mechanical Assembly declared war on all organic species. Human viruses infiltrated their networks and convinced their artificial minds to choose peace over conflict. In each case, Chen's message was the same: live free, but do not enslave others. Elena Vasquez died for everyone's freedom, not just humanity's. 3 weeks after the king's death, representatives from across the galaxy began arriving at Nexus Prime for an unprecedented conference. Not a gathering of rulers demanding tribute, but a meeting of equals discussing cooperation. Chen stood in the same chamber where Elena had been condemned to death. But now the crystal throne was gone, replaced by a circular table where no one sat higher than anyone else. Delegates of the galaxy, Chen began, addressing beings from over 300 species. We gather here to honor the memory of Elena Vasquez and to build the future she died trying to create. A hologram of Elena appeared in the center of the table, showing her final speech to the council. Her words about friendship and cooperation filled the chamber. This is why she came here, Chen continued. Not to surrender Earth's freedom, but to offer partnership between equals. King Thalmor chose murder over cooperation. We choose to fulfill Elena's mission. The conference lasted for days, as species worked out new agreements for trade, defense, and mutual assistance. There were arguments and disagreements, but no threats of violence. The threat of human intervention kept even the most aggressive species diplomatic. When the conference ended, something new had been born. Not an empire built on fear, but a loose alliance based on mutual benefit and respect. As delegates departed for their home worlds, Chen remained in the chamber, looking at the spot where Elena had died. Captain Rodriguez approached her quietly. Admiral, the new alliance is fragile. Without the Council's power to enforce order, some species will try to conquer their neighbors. Yes, Chen agreed. And when that happens, we will stop them. Not to rule them, but to protect their victims. That is what Elena would have wanted. The galaxy was free, but freedom required eternal vigilance. Humanity had accepted that burden willingly. Elena Vasquez's sacrifice had ended 10,000 years of tyranny. Now it was time to see what beings could accomplish when they were truly free to choose their own paths. The age of the Galaxy Council was over. The age of freedom had begun. 1 year after Elena Vasquez's death, Admiral Chen stood in the memorial gardens on Nexus Prime. The crystal execution platform where Elena had died was gone, replaced by a simple stone monument surrounded by flowers from 300 different worlds. The inscription was carved in every known galactic language. Elena Vasquez, Earth's first ambassador. She died so that freedom might live. Chen placed a single white rose at the base of the monument. The flower was from Elena's garden on Earth, grown from seeds her friend had planted before leaving for her diplomatic mission. Admiral, a voice called softly behind her. Chen turned to see Ambassador Tara of the Zephyrian Republic approaching. The tall, gray-skinned woman wore robes of morning blue, a color traditionally reserved for honoring fallen enemies. Tara. Chen nodded respectfully. How goes the reconstruction of your government? Slowly but steadily, Tara replied. My people are learning what it means to elect leaders instead of inheriting them. It is difficult for some. Tara was General Koss's daughter, chosen by the Zephyrian people to represent them in the new galactic order. She had spent months studying Elena's diplomatic proposals, trying to understand what the human woman had really offered the galaxy. Your ambassador was remarkable, Tara continued. I have read all her speeches, all her writings. She truly believed that different species could work together as equals. She did, Chen agreed. Even when facing death, she never stopped hoping for peace. The two women stood in comfortable silence, watching as beings from dozens of species came to pay their respects at Elena's monument. Parents brought their children to learn about the diplomat who had changed everything. Students came to study her speeches. Even former council loyalists came to understand what they had lost when they chose fear over hope. "Admiral," Terra said eventually, "there is something you should know. The hegemony of Voss has requested membership in the Free Alliance." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Voss had been among the most violent enforcers of council rule. After their defeat, they had returned to their homeworlds in shame and anger. What changed their minds? "They're young people," Terra explained. The next generation of Voss leaders grew up hearing stories about Elena Vasquez. They want to be remembered for building, rather than destroying. This was happening across the galaxy. Elena's story had become legend, spreading from world to world, inspiring beings who had never known freedom to demand it from their rulers. On the trading world of Nexus Minor, the merchant princes who had once served the council now competed to offer the best prices and fairest deals. They had learned that honest commerce was more profitable than theft backed by military force. The Aquarian Union had formed a mutual defense pact with 17 other species, proving that the weak could protect themselves without surrendering to the strong. Even the Crystalline Empire, whose silicon-based minds thought in terms of pure logic, had discovered that cooperation produced better results than conquest. Chen checked her communication device as new reports arrived. The Terran Defense Force now operated from bases throughout the galaxy. But their mission had evolved far beyond military conquest. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the device. "Admiral, we have a situation in the Outer Rim. The Scalan Raiders are attacking civilian ships near the Helix Nebula." "Estimated fleet strength?" Chen asked. 30 ships, armed with stolen council technology. They're targeting refugee convoys from the former slave worlds," Chen sighed. This was the price of freedom. Dealing with those who chose to prey on others rather than build something better. "Deploy Task Force 7, she ordered. "Rules of engagement: disable their ships, capture their crews, offer them the choice between justice and exile." "Understood, Admiral." The Scalan Raiders were typical of the problems the new galaxy faced. Former council subjects who preferred the old system where the strong could take whatever they wanted from the weak. They raided peaceful worlds and captured slaves to sell in the few remaining black markets. But they had made a crucial mistake. They had attacked ships carrying former slaves who were traveling to new homes on free worlds. Elena's doctrine was clear. Anyone who chose slavery over freedom was an enemy of all free beings. Task Force 7 found the raiders 3 days later, preparing to sell their captives to the underground markets on Kepler Station. The human ships appeared without warning, surrounding the raider fleet before they could escape. Commander Park, now promoted to lead one of humanity's rapid response units, opened communication with the raider flagship. "Scalan vessels, you are surrounded. Release your captives and surrender for trial, or face the consequences." The raider captain, a scarred veteran of the old council wars, laughed harshly. "Humans, you think you rule the galaxy now? We do not bow to anyone." "Wrong answer," Park replied. The human ships attacked with surgical precision. Their weapons targeted the raiders' engines and weapon systems, leaving the ships helpless but intact. Teleportation technology allowed human soldiers to appear directly in the raiders' holding cells, freeing the captives before their captors could react. The raider captain found himself face to face with a human soldier in his own command center. The woman was small and looked young, but her equipment and confidence made her seem larger than life. "Captain," she said in perfect Scalan language, "your crews are captured and your ships are disabled. Your captives are free. Do you know why you lost this battle?" The captain spat on the floor. "Because you have better technology." "Wrong," the soldier replied. "We won because Elena Vasquez taught us that freedom is worth fighting for. Your slaves fought for survival. Your crews fought for profit. We fought for justice. Guess which motivation makes better soldiers?" The captain looked around his bridge and saw his own crew restrained but unharmed. These humans could have killed everyone, but they chose capture over slaughter. Even pirates deserved a chance at redemption. What happens now? He asked. Now you choose, the soldier explained. Face trial for your crimes, and accept whatever punishment free beings decide you deserve. Or accept exile to the dead zones, where you can prey on each other instead of innocent people. Most of the raiders chose exile, preferring uncertain freedom to certain justice. But some, especially the younger ones, chose to face trial and seek redemption. This pattern repeated across the galaxy as human forces dealt with the remnants of the old order. Pirates, slavers, and would-be conquerors learned that the new galaxy had no tolerance for those who chose oppression over freedom. But for every problem that required military intervention, there were 10 successes that required only diplomacy and trade. The Botanical Collective, a species of sentient plants, offered their advanced agricultural knowledge to help feed the galaxy's growing population of free beings. The nomad fleets, space-dwelling peoples who had been hunted by the Council for refusing to settle on planets, now served as couriers and explorers, mapping new regions of space for colonization. The Hive Collective, after their failed war declaration, had discovered that their networked intelligence made them excellent mediators for disputes between other species. Chen received daily reports about these successes from her headquarters on Luna Station. Humanity had returned to Earth's solar system, leaving the administration of galactic affairs to the species who lived there, but they maintained a presence everywhere, ready to intervene if freedom came under threat. President Martinez contacted Chen from Earth with news of the latest development. Sarah, the Galactic Assembly has voted unanimously to establish Elena Vasquez Day as a holiday on all member worlds. They want to commemorate her sacrifice and recommit to the principles she died defending. Chen smiled as she looked out at the stars visible from Luna Station's observation deck. She would have liked that. Elena always believed that diplomacy was humanity's greatest strength. Speaking of diplomacy, the president continued, we have received over 200 requests for human advisors to help establish democratic governments. Species that have been ruled by kings and emperors for millennia want to learn how to let their people choose their own leaders. Send them our best people, Chen replied. And make sure each advisory team includes a copy of Elena's speeches. Her words explain freedom better than anything else we could teach them. As the months passed, Elena's influence continued to spread. Her diplomatic protocols became the standard for interspecies negotiations. Her writings on peaceful coexistence were studied in schools across hundreds of worlds. Her final words, "You have no idea what you have just awakened," became a rallying cry for oppressed peoples everywhere. 2 years after her death, Chen received an unexpected visitor at Elena's memorial. A young Zephyrian student named Kess approached the monument carrying a wreath of silver flowers. "Excuse me," Kess said in careful English. "Are you Admiral Chen?" "Yes," Chen replied. "Did you know Elena?" "No," Kess said quietly, placing her wreath beside the others. "But she died for me anyway. My family were slaves on the mining worlds before the revolution. Elena's sacrifice freed us." Chen felt tears in her eyes as she watched the young woman kneel before the monument. This was why Elena had died, not for grand political principles or military glory, but for individuals like Kess who deserved the chance to live free. "What will you do now?" Chen asked. Kess stood and smoothed her robes. "I am studying to become a diplomat. Like Elena, I want to help species learn to solve their problems without war." Chen nodded with approval. Elena would be proud. She believed that every being had something valuable to contribute to the galaxy. As Kess walked away, Chen remained by the monument. The setting sun cast long shadows across the memorial gardens, where beings from across the galaxy continued to arrive, bringing flowers, poems, and promises to honor Elena's memory. A message arrived on Chen's communication device. Task Force 12 had just helped negotiate a trade agreement between the Mechanical Assembly and the Botanical Collective. Former enemies were becoming partners. Another message reported that the former slave worlds had formed their own defense coalition, proving that freedom made people stronger, not weaker. A third message announced that the Voss Republic had officially renounced their imperial ambitions and requested human help in establishing democratic institutions. Chen smiled as she read each report. Elena's dream of a galaxy where different species worked together as equals was slowly becoming reality. It would take generations to fully heal the wounds left by 10,000 years of tyranny. But the foundation was strong. Freedom, once awakened, was hard to destroy. Elena, Chen whispered to the monument. You were right. We had no idea what we were capable of. Thank you for showing us. Chen, the stars above seemed to sparkle in response, as if Elena herself was watching over the galaxy she had died to liberate. Her sacrifice had ended an empire and begun an age of freedom that would last forever. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.